Welcome to PASSIONEER Magazine The Podcast, where you'll hear inspirational stories, encouraging news, and in-depth interviews with authors, influencers, CEOs, and thought leaders. PASSIONEER Magazine The Podcast. Bold ideas, brave pursuits, boundless inspiration. Hello, and thank you so much for joining me here on PASSIONEER Magazine, the podcast. I am really excited about my guest today, and I think that you will be too. We'll be spending time today with Bobbie Cox, and we are going to pick her brain about being the all that she is. But one thing in particular is an author. So yes, we are also going to be able to dive deep into one of her books as well. So go on and get comfortable. Hello. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Dr. Angela, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to share with your audience about what God has done in my life.
Absolutely. And I am so excited to talk to you about not only your entrepreneurial endeavors, but being an author as well. So, oh my goodness, I hope we can get it all in. I'm a little bit of a chatty Cathy. So I hope that I'll be able to pick your brain about some of the things that you do, but also motivate our viewers and our listeners as well. So before we get started, I do want to ask, what makes you you? There may be some listeners that are unfamiliar with you and your brand.
What makes me unique is it took me 69 years to finally let the Lord be God in my life. I've been around the world 700,000 miles. I'm a widow twice. I'm just trying to find what the niche is God wanted to use me for. I kept jumping in the way. And finally, when I refrained from that, then the Lord started flourishing me when I became an empty vessel for him to use.
Oh my goodness. I love that answer. And I like how you said you kept jumping in the way. So many times that's what we hear. I'm sabotaging these things and I don't figure it out until 5 years has passed or 10 years have passed. So I know that once you figure that out, smooth sailing from that point forward, because that makes all the difference. Oh, I love that. Now, when it comes to your brand, because like I said, I know that you have entrepreneurial endeavors as well as being an author. Why was it important for you to not only write, but to also set up that entrepreneurial side, that charitable side of what you do?
Well, believe me, it did not begin as me being an author at all from the beginning. It actually all started, the idea was an inspiration at what I call a 111 moment. Remember, during the pandemic, churches were not gathering, including my home church that I hosted. We drank the Kool-Aid too, and we stopped gathering. Isolation was challenging for us all and created relationship issues and confusion. Tempers were rising, and we were all experiencing really unfamiliar ways of life. Then one day I was reading 2 Corinthians 1:11, which says, "Please help us by praying for us." And I glanced at my watch and it was 1:11. And I felt an inspiration to send a text to our home church, just to pause and pray for each other each day at 1:11. And had I ignored that and disregarded this 1:11 moment, there wouldn't be a Branch to Hope app, which we'll talk about, a Branch to Hope Color of the Day challenge, or a Pause and Pray book. Which I will say is quite unique. We're setting a precedence here. We have 365 QR codes on each page that link the color of the day, which is inspiring people to change their habits every day. It takes 21 days to make a habit, 9 fruit of the Spirit. In less than 6 months, we would all be living more in the character of Jesus.
Oh, I absolutely, positively love that. And I cannot wait to share your information with some of the lady groups that I am a part of. I do a thing called Sisters in Spirit. And we have a scripture of the day. We have a color of the day, a way that we're able to share what God shares with us for that day. I tell you, you're onto something absolutely amazing. Anyone listening needs to definitely participate and take heed, because it's a very easy way, at least in my understanding, of how we can encourage and inspire each other, how we can tap into that evangelistic side of ourselves, and just be women who want to make sure that we are encouraging other women, women supporting women.
That's
So
what it's
that
all.
I love that. I love that you are doing that. Now, what are the roles that you have found when it comes to collaboration? Are there any particular roles that you have found that have really helped foster your partnership with others, or making that journey a little bit easier for those that were looking for that outlet?
You know, collaboration is just with those around us. Ours was birthed with everyone who hears our Branch to Hope message and joins the unity of our power of prayer at 111. Our Branch to Hope app sends a reminder each day at 111 across time zones to pause and pray for each other and our country, which is evidenced on our prayer wall. And the power of prayer is undeniable, Dr. Angela. Strong partnerships are those who will share our message of hope, extending a branch to hope, and awareness of intentionally changing our habits makes a difference in how we act, how we react, our words, our tonality, our behavior, these choices we all have in the moments of our daily journey. And the theme has sounded out clearly. Our tag is new habits create change. They say it takes 21 days to make a habit. As I said earlier, 9 fruit of the spirit in a short 6 months. Just imagine the transformed way of people living lives when they can make a choice. But it takes a unified collaboration and partnership of support to ignite a spark that can lead to a wave of change, and a movement across our troubled land. And at Branch to Hope, we depend upon that collaboration and partnerships with everyone that catches a glimpse of our message.
I have to agree with you there. There's nothing like that collaboration. And I find that many times when we as women, when we are inspired to do something, there's no stopping us. And especially when we understand that this is kingdom building, or this is about what God has given us, that this is our purpose, then it's kind of like move out of the way, because we're definitely going to move forward in that. And I love that, having that tenacity for God to just say, I'm going to make this happen. I love that. Now, many of the people that I've had an opportunity to speak with over the years, they find that there is a nudge, a prompting, a knowing. And you kind of mentioned it before, but I do want to give you an opportunity to expound if you would like to. Did you have a that understanding? What did that feel like for you to know? Yes, I am not only going to suggest this to my church, but I'm going to make this bigger. I am going to make sure that women around the world are able to tap into this.
Actually, it was undeniable for me. I felt the nudging of the Lord in a powerful way. And I felt that my purpose began to extend a branch to hope to the lost and hopeless. And when I was recently told that even those who don't believe in Jesus would embrace this color of the day challenge, because who doesn't want people to live more gently and faithfully and peacefully? So we developed 9 bracelets. If you can see mine, it's Peace Day today, which represents a green. So I'm looking at the trees and I'm looking at my green shirt and I'm thinking, how can I be more peaceful? So we've developed this for people to wear every 9 days. You change the color and wear the fruit of the spirit. And so when someone says, now, wait a minute, you are wearing a yellow bracelet today. Yesterday you had on a pink bracelet and last week you had on a blue one. What's that about? So we had provided a seamless way to focus on wearing the color of the day. And so when we look around and see something yellow throughout the day, on yellow day, we think, how can I be kinder? And then on blue day, when we look at the sky, look at the signs and see blue, we're prompted to say, how can I be more joyful when I really feel like going home and curling up in the fetal position? I've got to intentionally be joyful. And so that gets attention. We're seeing people track intentional changes make a difference. And before long, those who say they don't believe in Jesus will be living more in his character every day, emulating the fruit of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control, all found in the Bible in the book of Galatians 5:22 through 23.
I love it. And let me tell you, just from my own personal experience with the ladies that I encourage to do the same, even though we have different programs, the same intention, I know that once they got started, they realized that they looked forward to their color of the day. They
Yes.
looked forward to someone saying, "Oh, that's such a pretty blouse." And I encourage them, if someone says that, tell them why you're wearing that
Yes.
color. You never know
Right.
if anyone has gotten a drop of Jesus that day,
That's
if
right.
anyone needs, encouragement from God that day, and maybe you were placed along their path to be that encouragement. So I must continue to encourage people to utilize your program, to do what is the prompt of the day, because yes, it makes a difference. I know the ladies are saying, I never knew that I could tell someone about God in the grocery store. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know I had permission to do that.
Yes.
Or I thought I had to be an elder in the church, or I had to, be a little bit further along in my faith. I didn't realize that this gives us permission to do that. Women of all ages. So I love that the bracelet idea. Oh, I love that. That is so encouraging, especially for our next generation, for our young ladies
Yes.
who may want to wear the bracelet, maybe not the blouse, but they want to wear the bracelet or gift it to someone to encourage them. Oh, I love you were thinking outside of the box there. Now, speaking of thinking and making sure that we are being all that we can be, one of the things that we have to make sure we do is leave room for just us, right? For just us being an individual person, taking off some of the hats that we wear. What are some of the ways that you find you keep some personal space for yourself to make sure that you are balanced and that you are spending your personal time with God, not just encouraging the ladies that look to you for inspiration?
Dr. Angela, my own personal growth and well-being is nurtured by realizing the importance of listening to my moments intentionally. Living out the message of Jesus is my joy and delight. If you're writing about the fruit of the Spirit every day, you sure better be intentionally living them. And I'll be doing it the rest of my life, because each day brings challenging moments. But this is my personal life. And just the way that the Lord has weaved it into my lifestyle, and the gratification of just seeing lives change. I mean, I have a friend, he's 80 years old, and his wife said, "Hey, this thing's working. My husband's being kinder to me than he ever has been, and more gentle and joyful." And so that to me is my personal growth just excels every time I get those wonderful responses from people that say, "Hey, I needed that daily message today." And I remember the moment that, I feel like the Lord puts me in a trance and writes through me. And I think that was written so long ago, from when it was broadcasted, but Lord knew that very day that person needed to hear that message. That's where I just excel.
And I love that you understand that you have to step out of the way. And I know that is something that so many times people ask, how do you do what you do? And it is what you say. You learn to step out of the way so that God can step in and use you to do whatever needs to be done. And I love that you are doing that and encouraging others. Now, your story is a great segue to my next question, which is, has there been a moment where you were surprised that someone shared a story with you, or they had a quirky little something that may have happened, but it was sparked by one of your devotionals or one of your encouraging moments, a speaking engagement that you've done, a podcast that they've heard you on. Have there been any moments along the ways, a positive review of something that goes, wow, it is really doing exactly what God said that this would do?
Well, I haven't told the story in a long time, so forgive me if I stumble a little bit, but the surprise just brought to mind a few years ago. I was asked to speak at a women's conference, and the Lord said, "Go unscripted. I'll give you what to say." And so I did. I mean, I jumped off that cliff, and it taught me a lot what he had to say. And I'll try to put like a 30-minute speech into a few moments. But he said, we're all born a neutral color. And as we weave into each other's lives throughout our journey of life, we bleed off a different color in each other's lives. And oftentimes, and so the Lord has a big needle and a big tapestry of our life. And until he has all the specific colors so perfectly designed to thread that first stitch, we often think, oh, why is nothing happening? Lord, like I've done all I can do. We may be the perfect color of thread, but maybe it's other people. He needs 6 more pieces of threads to make the stitch. So I feel that when we look at life and we wonder, like, why is nothing happening? It's not just us. God is a God of perfection, and he is waiting to create the most beautiful tapestry for each of our lives. And then when our life is over, he'll roll it up and it hangs in the Hall of Fame of tapestry in heaven. And I feel like that was a surprise that he gave me that message. And even more so, that was really before the color of the day became what it is, and it will begin a movement. So he was already weaving colors into my thought process so that he could work through me to create what we hope will be a movement across America, and people wearing bracelets and living the fruit of the color and the fruit of the spirit.
Oh, I love that. And I love that imagery, that we are all stitched together
Yes.
through our relationship with God. That is so awesome. I love that. And I see your background, and what a beautiful way to remind people when we see these splashes of color throughout our day. No one ever says, oh my goodness, I'm so tired of looking at these green trees. No one ever says, oh, the water is just too blue today. Like, no one ever looks at nature and says, I wish it were, toned down a little bit, but instead it so encourages us. So I love that inspiration of look at the colors and how does it inspire you? But we are all the thread that God is knitting together into this beautiful tapestry. I love that. I love that.
May I add one more thing
Sure.
to that? Okay, I have a young person. She is 21 years old, and she drives an hour away to join me at church, and then we go for lunch, and we have a little counseling session afterwards, which I love. I learned as much from her as hopefully she does from me. But she said to me one day, she's a server at a 5-star restaurant, and she wears the bracelet colors every day and shares it with her tables and the coworkers. And she said to me one day, and I'll try to mimic a little bit how she talks. It's so captivating. She says, Miss Bobbie, you are onto something here with this color of the day, because I was driving and it was green day, and I was trying to think about how I could be more peaceful when I saw nature and I saw a green sign. But she says, then as I was driving, there was a caution sign and it was orange. And I said, well, just because it's Peace Day and Green Day, I can have self-control because that's Orange Day. And then she said, I looked over and I saw someone wearing a yellow dress. And I said, but just because it's Peace Day and Green Day, I can also be kind today. She says, it's grooving neurons into my brain. So when I see colors, I automatically think, how can I live more like Jesus?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I love that. I love that. And I mean both sides of the coin. I love that first of all, she's a young lady and she wants to be a part of this,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that you're reaching out to the young adults and making a difference in their lives, but not only is she listening, is she paying attention, but she's living it out in her life.
Yes.
To be able to walk the walk sometimes can be a little tougher for our younger sisters
Yes.
in faith, right?
Yes.
Just because the world is pushing them in a certain direction. So the fact that she's able to make that connection and she's continuing to be inspired by that, we have to applaud her and say, well
Yes.
done for doing that.
Yes.
Stay encouraged. So I'm so happy that she did that. And then the flip side of that is I am so happy that it is something that you have made it in a way that has made it practical, that it isn't tough, it isn't difficult, it isn't overly and unnecessarily involved or complicated. You made it so easy for us to be able to communicate not only with our fellow sisters in faith, but also easy for us to communicate with God, right? So if you don't know what to say that day, or you're trying to figure out, well, what do I talk to God about that day? You could use your color to
Yes.
be inspired. Well,
Yes.
today is this particular day. Lord, give me an opportunity to be that. And I just love that you are doing that. What a way to encourage everyone. That is so awesome. Now that leads me to my next question, and that is how we understand success. Many times when I am speaking with someone who is not involved, their business is not faith centered or Bible based, if you will, then the question is perhaps a little different for them. How do you judge your success? Many times it's the home you live in, the car you drive, where your kids get to go to school, all of those things. But I find many times for my Christianpreneurs that we don't use the same yardstick. We want those things too, don't get me wrong, but we don't use the same measuring stick. How do you understand your success or measure your targets when it comes to your organization?
I love the way you worded that. That is a beautiful way because hey, I was at one time, my measure of success and my yardstick was very different than it is today. But success for me and our Branch to Hope ministry is seeing transformed lives and the impact of those who pause and pray at 111, the unity of prayer and the results of those prayers. And once we start seeing a wave of bracelets throughout the country, across college campuses, across homeschool children, you know, and that are embracing the message of new habits create change, we will see transformed lives becoming a movement. And for me, more transformed lives living in the character of Jesus, that's total success for me.
Mhm, mhm. I have to agree with you. You are doing awesome and amazing things, and to think that it started just as that spark, just as I like to call them God downloads. And
Yes.
you followed the prompts that God gave you, and you have been able to create this movement that is spreading across the globe. And that is so awesome. I want to say that because I want to encourage a listener or a viewer that, you know, it all starts when God speaks, right? We know that from Genesis chapter 1 that God spoke and it was so. So when he speaks into our lives, it is the same way. We bring it forth and then we are able to see how so many lives are changed just because we followed God's prompting. I love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Now, I know that you are, and I love what Branch to Hope is doing, but I want to kind of shift gears just a little. You are also an author. Tell me about your book and how did the idea of writing the book start?
Well, when you're called upon God at 65 years old to start something new in your world, and at 69 today, we have launched a book by Broad Street Publishing with the QR codes that are going to set people apart, be the really the first interactive devotional book that has a call to action every day. People are led to it. The video vignettes are really getting some rave reviews, and so that all I can say is that's all God. It's just walking through those doors, creating something that I feel that people can give a gift that keeps on giving. It's a gift. It's such a powerful gift. It's going to be, as someone said, such a great gift for New Year's. It's a New Year's resolution that, and you mentioned earlier, Dr. Angela, we make it seamless. We all feel like we don't have time for anything, and we are all so overscheduled. But what I consider is we have idle moments of our day. We're standing in line at the grocery store. We're sitting at a red light. We're on hold, all the time. These are moments that what my friend Zig Ziglar said, use your mind as a university. You can gain a PhD about life. And so in those idle moments when we're just really, there's nothing you can be doing, but really engage your mind as a university and say, okay, today is Green Day. How can I be more peaceful? How was I not so peaceful before? How can I go into this next meeting? Or how can I walk into my office with coworkers that are really challenging and say, I want to bounce back a peaceful moment instead of the moment that they're used to getting from me as a response to their moment. We can truly start away. And Dr. Angela, people have said it's a challenging game through day to say, hey, how can I interact this, and how can I create a movement in others? Because you'll see a difference in yourself, and you'll see a tremendous difference in the atmosphere around you and other people responding back. Originally, this was called Bouncing Back Moments when 2 decades ago, I was speaking at the University of Ohio, and the Lord just downloaded this to me about the color association. And little did I know that today, for such a time as this, when tempers are just violent right now, and people are so on edge, using and weaving these into our lifestyle, we can really see a difference. And we have tried to make it very seamless. On our app, we show the color of the day, or in the book is the color of the day. And I also mentioned, the message in the app and on the color of in the book. Excuse me for stumbling. And it really does give you a scripture of the day that is based on the date. So today is September 30th. So it would be Isaiah 30th, 9:30, associates with the date. So every time you see the date around, you can say, how can I weave the scripture into my conversation and engrave it on my heart? So we do have a lot of seamless tools to answer your question that helps people live more in the character of Jesus in this volatile world.
I love it. I love it. Well, I have to say that it is no wonder that you are here on Passioneer Magazine, the podcast. You are definitely an example of what our motto is, being brave, being bold, and being boundless. Understanding that when you have a task to do, a purpose to do, there is nothing that is going to stop a woman that is purpose driven. And especially when God gives her that download. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Miss Bobbie Cox, thank you so much for coming on and spending time with me here today. And not only sharing about, again, your app, about your book, and about all that you are doing, but also encouraging our young women, especially, and our women in particular, to go ahead and step out and be exactly who God has created them to be. Thank you for spending time with me today.
Thank you, Dr. Angela. It's been a joy and a pleasure.
Absolutely. Now, just in a case that someone has turned away, I want to make sure they know how to reach out to you. If someone wants to download that app, or they want to reach out to you, what is the best way to do that?
To download the app, go to the App Store, the Google Store. It's Branch to Hope. And we have a website, branchtohope.app or branchtohope.org. And you can reach us at hello@branchtohope.
I love it. Thank you again for being a guest.
Thank you, Dr. Angela.
Absolutely.